Those are the end of the announcements, and Freeland will be leading us in a reading.
Okay, the reading today, if you turn your hymnals to the very, very back, it'll be number 528. So once you get past all the songs, get to the back, we have readings. This is number 528, and it's called Christ Reigning. And it says here that it comes from 1 Corinthians 15. Yeah, you guys can all rise. Read here. It's going to be from 1 Corinthians 15, 3 through 4, and 19 through 28. And on number 528, Christ Reigning, I will read the part that's not in bold, and then the congregation will read back the part that is in bold. For I delivered unto you first of all which I also received, how that Christ died for our sins according to the Scriptures.
And that he was buried, and that he rose again the third day according to the Scriptures.
If in this life only we have hope in Christ, we are of all men most miserable.
But now is Christ risen from the dead, and become the first fruits of them that slept.
For since by man came death, by man also came the resurrection of the dead.
For as in Adam all died, even so in Christ shall all be made alive.
But every man in his own order, Christ the firstfruits, afterward they that are Christ's at his coming.
Then cometh the end, when he shall have delivered up the kingdom to God, even the Father, when he shall have put down all rule and all authority and power.
For he must reign till he hath put all enemies under his feet.
The last enemy that shall be destroyed is death.
For he hath put all things under his feet.
And when all things shall be subdued unto him, then shall the Son also himself be subject unto him that put all things under him, that God may be all in all.
Y'all be seated, please. And Rachel forgot to mention that July 1st, potluck is also Bring Your Gun to Church Day. And I don't know of any other church that does that, but we do it. So bring your favorite gun to church. Don't shoot anybody. Just bring it to church. Show off your church here in potluck and your gun and so on. So that's Bring Your Gun to Church Day. We believe the Second Amendment, and that's part of the way we show that appreciation. Title of my message is Get Angry. In Psalm 7:11, I might have it on the screen actually. Psalm 7:11, God judges the righteous, and God is angry with the wicked every day. Every day, God's angry with the wicked. Now, we're going to read another passage, and I'm going to put on the screen in a minute from 1 Samuel 11. 1 Samuel 11. This is about Saul. Now, we all are familiar with Saul. We think of Saul as being the wicked king of Israel that tried to kill King David before he became king. And he defied God's commandments that he encountered with the witch of Endor and so on. We think about that Saul, but there was another Saul. Same man, with a different personality. The first Saul, before he allowed himself to become corrupted. And this Saul was a very righteous man. In fact, the Bible tells us he was the finest man in all of Israel. And he was a very humble man. Saul was a very humble man. And when he was to be appointed king, he actually went and hid because he was so embarrassed that he would be appointed king of Israel. He was a very righteous man. Now, he later on allowed corruption to come into his life. But we're going to read about this first Saul. And we're going to read about it in 1 Samuel 11. About a month later, Nahash, the Amorite, and an army surrounded the city of Jabesh in Gilead. All the people of Jabesh said to Nahash, make a treaty with us and we will serve you. In other words, they were surrounded and they're going to have to pay tribute of some sort. But he answered, I will make a treaty with you only if I'm allowed to poke out the right eye of each of you. And I'll spare your life, but I will poke out your right eye. Then all Israel will be ashamed. Verse 3, the older leaders of Jabesh said to Nahash, give us 7 days to send messages around all Israel. If no one comes to help us, we'll give ourselves up to you. When the messenger came to Gibesh, where Saul lived, this is the first Saul, before he became corrupted, where Saul lived and told the people the news, they cried loudly. Saul was coming home from plowing the fields with his oxen. When he heard the people crying, he asked, what's wrong with the people? Why are they crying? Then he told Saul what the messenger from Jabesh had said. When Saul heard those words, God's spirit rushed into him with power. And he became very angry. And the story goes on about how he delivered the city of Jabesh. God's spirit rushed into him and he became very angry. His anger came from God. Now I know we're told so often by churches about you shouldn't be angry, you should be kind of mellow. God doesn't want you to be angry people. Well, that's not true. Now, I'm going to be the first to admit our church is not a normal church. Certainly not the church you might see up and down the highway. When you see those churches up and down streets in Harrison, you can say to yourself, that's not us. Nope, not that one either. Drive by Eagle Heights Baptist Church or St. John's Episcopal Church or drive by the brand new church, you can say to yourself, nope, that's not us. We're not like that. You see, we're not a normal church. Certainly not normal church when you see throughout the city of Harrison, throughout Boone County, through the state of Arkansas, or throughout the nation. There are other churches like us. I'm not saying we're the only one. There are other churches like us. But for the most part, we're in the minority. When you turn on a TV set, flip those channels, and see those preachers on TV, you can say, no, we're not like that either. In fact, the Bible tells us that we're supposed to be a strange and peculiar people. Now, I have been to many churches over the years, some more than once. Meryl and I have attended Baptist churches. We have attended Pentecostal churches. We have attended Lutheran churches. We have attended a Catholic church. And when I say attended, I don't mean that we were members of those churches, but we just went. Maybe one time or a couple times. We attended a spiritualist church together. We went to one church that claimed Elijah the prophet stood next to him while he preached. We went to another church where the guy claimed he could perform psychic surgery. We attended big churches. We have attended little churches. We have attended mega churches. Jehovah's Witness churches, Mormon church, and even one time we attended synagogue. It's true. We didn't go to these churches because we were searching for something, but because we had some truth we thought they might have. And I'm not even saying it was a good idea we went to the church. I'm not necessarily advertising or suggesting you do that. Perhaps we were wrong in going. I'm just telling you, the Bible does say not to touch the unclean thing. So I'm not advising people to do that. I'm not advising you to go to synagogue or to a spiritualist church. I'm not advising that. I'm just telling you what we did. It might have been the wrong thing to do, but we still did it. And it might have been wrong, but nevertheless we did it, so I got to tell you that. Now, I want you to understand that all these various religions including those that we have not attended. We have not attended a Muslim church. Well, I guess they're called temples or something, I don't know. Or a Hindu or Buddhist. We have not attended those churches. But they'll tell you they're all pretty much the same in some way. All these churches are pretty much the same in some way. They'll tell you that if you follow their teaching and pathway, you will find peace. So I don't care if it's the Baptist church, or the Lutheran church, or the Mormon church, or the Hindus, or the Methodists, or Jehovah's Witnesses. I don't care what church it is. Almost every single church that you will find out here in the streets of Harrison, or Boone County, or Arkansas, they'll tell you all the same thing. Come to our church, and you will find peace. Preachers will knock on the doors, and they'll send out invitations to people, to the mail, or handouts, or flyers. They'll announce special programs, inviting people to come to their church. They'll urging people to attend. And they'll say, listen, come to our church. It's a wonderful church. Preachers will coax them about the love that is found in our church, whether it be Mormon or Baptist or Luther or whatever. Some churches say, we have a wonderful choir. Come to our church, you're just going to enjoy the choir. They say, we have a great Sunday school. Every church is going to say the same thing, pretty much. We have a great Sunday school. Come to church. You enjoy Sunday school. You enjoy the great preaching. Most churches will say something similar, that if you come to our church, you will just feel the love of God. How many times have you heard that? Come to our church and you can just feel the love of God. Now, is there anything wrong with that? Well, of course not. There's nothing wrong with feeling God's love, no matter where you're at, whether you're in church or walking through a pathway through the fishing. There's nothing wrong with the church having a nice choir. Nothing wrong with that. But they say, come to our church, they'll tell you. Come to our church, and you will find a wonderful spirit of love, joy, and peace. Every church is going to tell you that. Come to our church, you're going to find love and joy and peace. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's really nothing wrong with finding love and joy and peace. There's nothing wrong with that. It's something we all want. But is that enough? That's the question. No, it's not enough. Here's our problem. They tell the teachers, the people, don't see any more visions. They say to the preachers, don't tell us the truth. Say things that will make us feel good. See only good things for us. See, most people go to church because they want the preacher to say something that's going to make them feel good. There's a song. I'm not going to try to sing it because I don't know all the words. But if I knew all the words, I might try to sing it for you. It says, something good is going to happen today. You all heard that song? Something good is going to happen. And there's nothing wrong with that. We all want something good to happen to us. And we all should expect God's blessing. So I'm not discounting that. I'm not discounting any of that. But is that really enough? Is that really enough? Is that reason to go to church just because we want to feel good? That's the difference between our church and those churches. Because I want everybody here, through our broadcast on the internet or is here today, using a church phrase, I want you to enjoy the joy of the Lord. But I don't want you to come to this church just to find peace. If that's all you're looking for, to find peace, I'm not sure that's enough. When you come to the church, I want you to find anger. I want you to find discontent. I want you to leave more angry. When you come to church here, I want you to leave more angry when you leave than when you came. I want you to have peace. I want you to have joy. But I also want you to have anger. Be angry. You're told from every corner, from every source, that what we need is more love. We hear that all the time. But nobody tells us. I never hear a preacher tells us you need more anger. And yet that's what we need. We need more anger. The result, because we're not angry enough, because people don't get angry, sin marches throughout our land unmolested. Wickedness is on every doorstep, and evil triumphs over righteousness continually. Christian people have forgotten how to be angry. They forgot how to be angry. They think they have to be nice and sweet all the time. Now, I don't think you should go out and be an angry person, like just angry at people. I'm not suggesting that. But there are certain things you should have anger against. And people forgot how to be angry. They just want to be mellow. And Revelation's talking about that. You read that in Revelation. I know your deeds. You're talking about the Laodicean church. I know your deeds, that you are neither cold nor hot. But I wish you were either one or the other. So because you are lukewarm, neither cold nor hot, I'm about to spit you out of my mouth. Now the word spit is from the Hebrew or Greek word ario. And it doesn't mean spit. It translates spit, I understand. But it really means to vomit. I'm going to vomit you. And as I've described before, spit is when you put something in your mouth you don't like and you spit it out. Vomit comes from deep inside. Deep inside a gut wrench. Because you try not to vomit. I mean, don't most people try not to vomit and you try to hold it back as long as possible and finally you can't hold it back anymore? You just can't hold it back anymore and you heave. And it's not a pretty sight. It's certainly not something you want to have a 8x10 made and send around to your family. And so vomiting is not a pretty sight. And God said he's going to vomit these people out of his mouth. It appears that God is more angry with people that are lukewarm than even those who are against him. I wish you're one or the other. I wish you're hot. I wish you're cold. But you're neither. You're just vile and disgusting. I'm going to vomit you out of my mouth. So we're told what the world needs now is love. The media tells us we need love. Entertainers tell us we need love. Everybody tells us what the world needs now is love, more love, sweet love, not just for some, but for everyone. You've heard that song, right? Oh, the world, if we just had more love. If we had more love, the world would be a wonderful place. There wouldn't be any robbery or discontent or mass shootings, and we wouldn't have any new guns and all these things. We just have to have love. But we're in this mess today, not because we don't have enough love. We're in this mess today because we don't have enough anger. Now, before we go any further, I want to remind you briefly of just who you are. This is going to be, you've heard this before, I'm just going to remind you. Remind you of who you are. But I also want to remind you who you are not. First of all, you are not of this world. You are the children of the offspring of God in the earth. God didn't just one day sit up in heaven and say, I'm going to make black people, I'm going to make some yellow people, I'm going to make some brown people, and I'm going to make some white people. And I'm just there and sprinkle all these. It didn't happen that way. He certainly made some of these people black. He certainly made some yellow. These black and yellow people certainly have God as their creator. People say, well, God created everything. Well, sure, God created every race of people. That's absolutely true. He also created spiders and cockroaches and centipedes and snakes and gophers and wolves and everything else. So everything was created by God. So just say, well, we're all created by God means absolutely nothing. God is their creator. But you, my friend, are of different order. And the Bible describes the sons and daughters of Israel as he is their father. And there's a difference between God as a creator and God as the father. He describes that he's the father of Israel, your ancestor. He's your father. I know some people think the Jews are Israel, but that's another story. He is your father. the sons and daughters of Israel, the sons and daughters of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And because you're the sons and daughters of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and because God made this wonderful covenant with Abraham and Sarah and Isaac and Jacob, and to all their generation, you're different. You're not just white person with white skin. You're the sons and daughters of God. You have God's Spirit in you. He is more than your creator. He is your Father. That is what the Apostle Paul was speaking to our ancestors, your ancestors in ancient Greece, said that these Greeks were the same blood as him. Now the Greeks only lived about 50 miles from Corinth, and 1 Corinthians chapter 10 explains very clearly that the Corinthians were Israelites. So these people in Greece, these people in Athens were Israelite brethren. He tells them we're all the children of Abraham. In one of the favorite verses of those who have a hatred for your race is, oh, we're all one blood. We've all heard that. We're all one blood. Acts 17:26 through 28 hath made of one blood all nations, all men for to dwell on the face of the earth. Well, of course, who is he referring to? What did he tell Abraham? I'm going to make of you many nations. So when he said we're all one blood, he telling these Greeks in Athens, we are of the same family. We are all the children of Abraham. He wasn't talking about the Hindus or the Pygmies in Africa. He wasn't talking about those in the Bushmen, Australia, or the Indonesians or so. He's talking about the racial brethren and those in Greece, in Athens. The Apostle Paul said, we're of one blood. We are all of Abraham. And to determine the time before appointed and the bounds of the habitation, that they should seek the Lord, if happily they might feel after him, and find him, though he be not far from any one of us. For in him we live and move and have our being. This directly comes up from, I believe, Deuteronomy 4:30, where it talks about Israel dwelling within the Spirit of God. For in him we live and move and have our being, as certain of your own prophets have said. For we see, there's a difference between something that is created by God and being the offspring of God. A rabbit is God's creation, but he's not God's offspring. A deer is God's creation, but it's not God's offspring. A lion or a porcupine or a squirrel or any other creature of the wild is God's creation, but it's not his offspring. And we look at those people, we call people that surround us today, that have an intense hatred for our race, who try to bring genocide upon our people. Maybe it be Negroes or Asians or whatever they be. They may be the creation of God. Jesse Jackson may be the creation of God. Al Sharpton may be the creation of God. They are not his offspring. That's exactly who you are, the offspring of God. We have within you his divine spirit. Have you ever had somebody, again, to remind you? Have you ever had somebody tell you that you could have been born black? I know I have. You could have been born black. And you already know what I'm going to say because you've heard me say it before. You know you could not have been born black. It's impossible you've been born black. It's impossible. You could not have been born black any more than you could have been born a centipede. I mean, everybody say, don't kill that mouse. You might have been born a mouse. You couldn't have been born a mouse. You couldn't have been born a centipede. You could not have been born black. You could not have been born yellow. You're the offspring of God. And God is going to produce his own kind in the earth. That's why our race had this creative spirit about them. They had this divine spirit. Now, the reason that and you're the offspring of God, you carry the same DNA that Christ had. You ever stop and think about that? You have the same DNA that Jesus Christ had. Negroes did not have the same DNA that Christ had. Chinese don't have the same DNA as Jesus Christ. You carry the same DNA as Jesus Christ because you're the offspring of God. Luke tells us that Adam was the son of God. That is who you are. You're not black. You're not yellow. You're of Adam's race. The race of Adam. You carry the same DNA that Jesus carried. God breathed his own spirit into you. That's why Jesus Christ, he called your kinsman redeemer. The kinsman redeemer. We won't talk about that. It takes too long right now, but he's a kinsman redeemer. And according to the Old Testament law, only a kinsman can create a redemption. And that's why you're redeemed. Because Jesus Christ is your kinsman. The same DNA you have. He told you to have dominion over the earth. He told our people to have claim dominion over, but our people are afraid to claim dominion now. We're afraid to claim dominion. We want to apologize for all this so-called harm we've done. One preacher, I got this off of several years ago in some literature. One preacher said, quote, speaking to some African Americans and speaking to some white people in his audience, this is what this preacher said, quote, I have different messages for the African Americans among us and for the whites among us. In our American society, we each bring a history which we cannot escape. It is part of us. The blacks in our society have been oppressed and victimized. Whites, by and large, have been the oppressors. So there's a message this preacher is giving to all the white people in the audience. You're nothing but low-down, lousy oppressors. And all the black people around here have been oppressed by your hatred and your victimization. You oppressors. Then he went on to say, now I want to tell you, I'm ashamed. I should be ashamed. And you can take that sort of history and you can discover it in almost every part of our country. There's not going to be any reconciliation in death until we can feel shame. This whole agenda of white people, this white genocide, is to have our people be ashamed. Be ashamed of who you are. Your wonderful heritage, your wonderful culture, the wonderful contribution we had a sermon a few weeks ago. Our team is amazing, referring to our race. The tremendous contributions that our people have given to the world. This little clicker thing here. Do you know who invented that? I don't know. But if it were a black guy, you'd be hearing about it every February of Black History Month. Wouldn't you? Who invented this? I don't know. But if it were a black guy, you'd be hearing about it every February of Black History Month. Who invented the machine that made this thing? I don't know. But if it were a black guy, you'd be hearing about it every February during Black History Month. Who invented this little remote control? I don't know. Who invented this little rubber cap on top here? I don't know, but if a black guy, you'd be hearing about it. Who invented the gold paint? I don't know, but you'll be hearing about it. Every month during Black History Month. There's hundreds and thousands of things, little things, paper clips, Post-it notes, pliers, thousands of things that our people, the creative ability as the offspring of God, have given to the world, and little things we take for granted. But I know this much. If you've been a black person, you'd be hearing about it continually. You'd be hearing about it. You want to feel ashamed. So this preacher went on by saying, whether you respond or not, I want to cry out to you on behalf of my people, referring to white people, and beg your forgiveness. He tells the black and the others, I beg your forgiveness. That is what I said to several hundred African Americans last Sunday, and I meant it deeply. What we have done is awful beyond description. Really? We lifted them up out of their pitiful, miserable lives. We set hospitals and schools. We gone giving them health care. They were living a privilege. You watch TV, they're wearing glasses. Did they create? No, because Country Mart in town had a little box, and you can put your discarded glasses in there. And they'll send them some African tribe. They can't dig a well. There was out some church raising money to dig a well and teach them, you don't drink the water you urinate in. We're supposed to feel guilty? He said, what we have done is also beyond description. I grieve, I feel deep shame. How does one repent on behalf of a people? Who will let me speak for them? But as best I can, I want to ask your forgiveness, he tells the black and the honest, and I will pray that you will be given supernatural power to forgive me, because in your own power, you cannot forgive. So we're told the church is a hospital. How many times have we heard that? The church is a hospital for the sick and people who are lost. It's a hospital. And I understand the need people have, the spiritual need people have to rejuvenate and be encouraged and feel peace and the joy of the Lord. I understand all those things. All things are all important. Every one is important. So I'm not saying they're wrong or discounting them. So I can understand the concept that church is a hospital. But for the most part, the churches are not making people healthier. The churches are making people sicker. Look at our nation today. Look at it. Is it healthier, spiritually healthier than it was a generation ago? There's TV church preachers all over TV. Church at every corner. And is America spiritually healthier than it was 40 years ago, 50 years, 20 years ago? Isaiah talked about this sickness. He said the whole nation is sick. From the head to the crown of your foot. They're sick. And he says, no medicine. You may do all these things to try to recover and make yourself feel better. And he says there's no medicine that can take away your pain. No medicine can take away your pain. So I want you to know that the primary function of this church here, and others like us throughout the country, we're not the only one, isn't just to be a hospital. But as I understand from scriptures, the church was the army of the living God. Churches may still sing onward Christian soldiers, but the church does not really believe they are Christian soldiers. And so our country has been betrayed. For the leaders of my people, not just preachers, but those politicians, the guys in Washington, D.C., those congressmen, those senators, and you ask yourself, how can they do that? How can they do, like all those politicians want to get amnesty? What? Don't they realize it? How can they do that? Well, Isaiah says, for the leaders of my people, the Lord's watchmen, these people that are sent should be protecting the nation. The shepherds are all blind to every danger. They are feather-brained and give no warning when danger comes. They love to lie there, love to sleep, love to dream, and they are as greedy as dogs, never satisfied. They are stupid shepherds who only look after their own interests, each trying to get as much as he can for himself from every source possible. Boy, that does describe our political leaders in Washington, D.C. today. Maybe not those of several generations ago, but even many of them also. Can't they see what they're doing to the country? Maybe they can, but heck, watch out for himself, his own gain. And so now we're a nation of 20, I haven't seen it today, $20 trillion in debt. It will never come, can't come lower. It's impossible to come lower. It's impossible. I don't care what a politician or political person says. It's impossible to lower the national debt. Why? Because it's created by a Federal Reserve. And the Federal Reserve is a bogus banking system. It's impossible to get it lower. The only way you could get it lower is to cancel the debt. I mean, Trump would be impeached, but if he would just say, hey, the national debt is zero, because I've canceled it. Just, so now, that was tried once before, and it created World War II, but that's another story. Sodomites are fully accepted in our society. I mean, fully accepted. I mean, on TV, wherever. I mean, if someone's a homosexual, you're not supposed to have any ill will or feelings about them. So sodomites are fully accepted and accepted. Aliens have invaded every city, town, and community in America. I'm old enough, and some of you other here are old enough to remember when America was 92% white. It sounds hard to believe, but out of every 100 people you saw, 92 were white people. I remember Detroit was white. We have aliens come to our country who are pretending to be Americans. I don't care how many times they take their loyalty oath and become their citizenship papers. They're pretending to be Americans. They don't love the old America. They don't love the America of your forefathers. And yet, where's the anger at? Where's the anger at? I guarantee you can go to every church in Harrison, except for this one, and you would not find a preacher speaking about the anger we should have about this invasion into our country. Where's the anger at? Well, we have some Mexicans in our congregation, and I don't want to offend them. We have some that are married to people of our church, and we don't want to offend them. White children are now in the minority in America. The white race, we're told, will be a statistical minority in the year 2042. Bear in mind, we are already a moral, spiritual, and cultural minority. We already are a moral minority. We already are a spiritual minority. We already are a cultural minority. We are teetering on the brink of white genocide. And where's the anger? Who cares? We have preachers who want to apologize for the terrible mistreatment we've given to people of color. We're facing this white genocide, we're facing the destruction of our country, and the only thing most preachers can say when they stand behind their pulpit is, come to our church and you'll find peace. That's it? That's it? You're not going to find peace in this church. You'll find anger. I want you to have peace. I mean, I really want, we all should have peace with the Lord and knowing that we're doing the right thing. So I'm not saying we should live angry lives. I'm not saying that. We should have peace and contentment with the Lord. We should have joy with the Lord. But we need to have, when we see the wickedness in our land, if we don't have anger, there's something wrong. There's something wrong with a preacher or a church or a so-called Christians if he sees what's happening to our nation and he does not have anger. So we need to put on the full armor of God. We need to be fighting mad. So we're not a normal church, and I guess I'm not a normal preacher. Satanic rebellion wants to destroy the people of God. They want us to be weak. They want us to be afraid. They made a whole generation of our kids weak. I mean, how many people we all know about when Trump got elected, they had to have safe spaces and teddy bears and coloring books because they're afraid. They want us to be weak because they hate America. I don't care what they say on TV, they hate America. They hate the ideals of America, they hate our forefathers, they hate the things that built America. They hate white men, they hate white women, they hate our children, they hate our Christian faith, they hate our morals, they hate normal people. And yet the preachers are telling us not to fight back, just seek peace. And how many times, I know you'll see a few people on TV, a few preachers talk about it. We held our rally for morality in town here a few weeks ago, and we asked different churches to come and participate. No, I can't do that. We need to fight. Nehemiah 4:14, we talked about this last week. Nehemiah told those people, they're facing these group of people who were trying to prevent them from building the wall, rebuilding Jerusalem. He said, remember the Lord who is great and powerful. Fight for your families. Fight for your sons. Fight for your daughters. Fight for your homeland. That's all we're hearing today. Just have peace and joy and go to La La Land. So we had this guy in the White House for several years. People were mad at him. Actually, Obama did exactly what he said he was going to do. He said he's going to fundamentally change America, and he did. He fundamentally changed America. So last night, I'm going to try to close real quick. I'm skipping several different pages of notes. Last night, Mary Owen turned on TV, and she flipped through the church channels. I do sometime. And there's one church channel with a church program with a special titled, Do You Still Love Me? And talking about this guy on this church program, talking about how he has come out as a gay Christian. And he allowed to give his testimony, how God still loves him, and so on and so forth. And it's just done to soften us, to make us weak. And the message was, do you still love me? Because because of who I love? Be not surprised, I have not come to bring peace. To the earth, I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I come to turn a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies will be those of his own household. Anyone who loves his father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who loves his son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And anyone who does not take this cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Whoever will find his life shall lose it. Whoever shall lose his life shall find it. Now, this doesn't mean that Christ wanted you to have families. People read this sometimes, they don't understand what he's saying. It has nothing to do with fathers and mothers and daughters and children. Christ is not telling you, I want you to hate your father, or hate your daughter, or hate your son. That's not what he's saying. What he's doing is establishing a principle. And the principle is, principles don't change. Principles are absolute. They don't change because it's the year 2018. Righteousness is part of a law. We talked about that several months ago. It's a law. It doesn't change. It doesn't alter. The law is eternal. From thousands of years ago, even God himself has to obey the law. Even God himself. God did not create the law. God is the law. So Christ is telling us there are absolute truths, and these absolute truths doesn't change because of how people feel. It doesn't change because somebody read a book or went to Harvard or got a college degree or whatever. Principles don't change. They're eternal. Principle is more important than family. Principle is more important than friends. As I said last week, you can find another friend. You can't find another race. Regardless of what anyone may say, you must stand on the principle that Christ told us. Love your God and love your people. Our country has been invaded. Our culture has been perverted. Our Christian faith has been twisted. And it has lost all meaning. And our families have been destroyed. And if a person can face these things and still find peace, there's something wrong. There's something wrong. You have to have anger. So, in closing, the scripture tells us that Saul, when he saw the injustice being done to his people, we read the Spirit of God rushed into him, and he became very angry. Listen, I'm going to close with this. If you want to see the evidence of a person possessing the Spirit of God, if you want to look at somebody and see the evidence of that person possessing the Spirit of God, don't look at the cosmetics. Don't look at how nice he is. Oh, he's a nice guy. He's sweet. All that sort. Oh, those things are good. You should be nice people. But don't look at that. If you want to find out if somebody possesses the Spirit of God, look at how angry they are. Look at how angry they are in the face of this wickedness upon our nation. If they don't have anger, then they don't have the Spirit of God. Our Father, we thank you for this wonderful day and your blessings and your watch care over us. We ask that you help us be angry. When we see this wickedness upon our people, our children, and our families, and the perversion in our schools and on television, and we sit back and we yawn, does it upset us? There's something wrong in our spirit. Help us be angry. And help us come close to you so we channel that anger to become a voice of bringing white Christian revival, hope and deliverance to our people. In your name we ask it. Amen.
Tremendous message about righteous indignation. So very, very good. Those out there watching, if you would like more information about our services here, our ministry as far as DVDs, online newsletters, and so forth, you can write to us at Post Office Box 602, Harrison, Arkansas 72602. That's Post Office Box 602, Harrison, Arkansas 72602. And you can email us at revival@southshore.com, revival@southshore.com. We will see you next week, and remember to watch Wake Up America, our daily Bible lesson broadcast here by the church. Jonathan?
All right, everyone please arise.